As director of the CIA, George Tenet has kept America's most important secrets, and until tonight, his lips have been sealed. Tenet's CIA has been blamed for failing to stop 9/11, praised for the fall of the Taliban, and vilified for predicting that Iraq held chemical and biological weapons. Now, 3 years after leaving the CIA, Tenet has written a book aptly named At the Center of the Storm. This month, we sat down with George Tenet. We wanted to know how he got weapons of mass destruction wrong. Are we using torture in the war on terror? And who was it at the White House who finally put the knife in his back? We found him passionate, combative, apologetic, defiant, and fiercely loyal to the people of the CIA and their fight against terrorism.
People don't understand us, you know. They think we're a bunch of faceless bureaucrats with no feelings, no families, no sense of what it's like to be passionate about running these bastards down. There was nobody else in this government that felt what we felt before or after 9/11. Of course, after 9/11, everybody had that feeling. Nobody felt like we felt on that day. This was personal.
His story erupts after a silence of 3 years. We spoke with Tenet at Georgetown University. In a sense, his career began and ended here. He's a professor now, but he first came as a student from Queens, New York. After college, he worked on Capitol Hill and in the Clinton White House, rising to lead the CIA at the age of 44. Tenet served 7 years, all that time hunting Osama bin Laden.
I still lie awake at night thinking about everything that could have been done that wasn't done to stop 9/11. To the 9/11 families, I said, you deserve better from your entire government, all of us.
If he lies awake, these men are among the reasons. Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Midhar were two of the 9/11 hijackers. Before 9/11, Tenet's CIA headquarters knew that they were al-Qaeda and in America, but the information was filed, not passed to the FBI.
2 of the 19 hijackers in your files in Langley, Virginia, a year and a half before 9/11.
Well, Scott, I can't...
They don't get on a watch list. Scott, they don't get on a no-fly list. You know these are bad guys.
Scott, they don't. And honest people doing honest work for whatever, you know, all of these people who are doing the best that they can and understand this in great granularity, understand all of this and feel this pain. We all know this. I can't dress this up for you.
What happened? Just tell me what happened.
People were inundated with data and operations, and they missed it. We're not trying to control information. We're not trying to intentionally withhold. Human beings made mistakes.
But the 9/11 Commission accused Tenet's CIA of being bureaucratic and failing to recognize al-Qaeda for the threat that it was.
All these commissions and all these reports never got underneath the feeling of my people. You know, to see us written about as if we're idiots, as if we didn't understand this threat, as if we didn't understand what happened on that day, to impugn our integrity, our operational savvy. You know, the American people need to know that's just not so. We're the ones that stand up and tell you the truth about when we're wrong. It's a great thing about this government. The only people that ever stand up and tell the truth are who? Intelligence officers. Because our culture is never break faith with the truth. We'll tell you. You don't have to drag it out of us. You didn't have to serve me a subpoena to tell me I didn't watch list Hazmi and Midhar. We knew right away and we told everybody. Truth matters to us.
The truth of the CIA and al-Qaeda starts before 9/11. 2 years before the attacks, the CIA had officers on the ground in Afghanistan laying plans to overthrow the Taliban and take out bin Laden. But Tenet says neither President Clinton nor President Bush would give him the go-ahead. Then, by the summer of 2001, Tenet says he was so alarmed by intelligence that an attack was coming that he asked for an immediate meeting to brief then National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice.
Essentially, the briefing says there are going to be multiple spectacular attacks against the United States. We believe these attacks are imminent. Mass casualties are a likelihood.
You're telling Condoleezza Rice in that meeting in the White House in July that we should take offensive action in Afghanistan now, before 9/11.
We need to consider immediate action inside Afghanistan now. We need to move to the offensive.
In his book, Tennant says that even though he told Rice an attack on Americans was imminent, she took his request to launch preemptive action in Afghanistan and delegated it to third-tier officials.
You're meeting with the president every morning.
Yeah.
Why aren't you telling the president, this is terrifying, we have to do this now, forget about the bureaucracy, I need this authority this afternoon?
Right, because the United States government doesn't work that way. The president is not the action officer. You bring the action to the National Security Advisor and people who set the table for the president to decide on policies they're going to implement.
You thought you had some time?
Well, you didn't know that. You thought you might have time. You can second guess me till the cows come home. That's the way I did my job.
On September 11th, Tennant was at breakfast near the White House when the first plane hit. He thought instantly of his old nemesis.
I knew immediately this was bin Laden. I excused myself from breakfast. I jumped in the car.
What do you mean you knew immediately? I mean, most people in the country thought there'd been a terrible accident.
Listen, when you've been following this as long as I've been following this, when you've been thinking about multiple spectacular attacks, there was no doubt what had happened in my mind immediately.
At CIA headquarters, as the towers burned and the Pentagon was hit, Tennant got the aircraft passenger manifests. Hazmi and Midhar were listed.
After all these years of planning and plotting and wanting to capture